and welcome back to the channel. Jupiter will be moving into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, where it will spend quite a lot of time. So it will spend about 10 months across the signs of Gemini and Cancer. So it will stay in this nakshatra till the 18th of June 2026. So this nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter itself, and therefore it will bring lots of opportunities for growth and also lots of opportunities for learning in the house that Jupiter is transiting and influencing. But the problem with Punarvasu is that it is not the most stable nakshatra because it is largely in the sign of Gemini, and Gemini has that changeable nature. But you can find yourself, repeating things over and over again, but doing things better the second or third time round. Punarvasu is associated with the cycle of creation, destruction, and then rebirth. So it has some transformational qualities. So while this is a beneficial nakshatra, or it's considered a beneficial nakshatra, which can bring lots of opportunities, it can also cause some hurdles which you have to navigate through. So be mindful of that. So if you think about Gemini, Gemini is actually a young person because it is the natural ruler of the third house. So it represents early education. And if you think about young children, through the process of learning and going through life, they do make mistakes, but they learn from them. So that is what Punarvasu is about. It's about learning from any mistakes that you have made. Punarvasu can also show restoring things. It can show resuming things, but to a better condition. So if when Jupiter was in Adra, it disturbed your life in any way, during Jupiter's transit in Punarvasu, things can be repaired or healed to how it was before, but in a better way. This nakshatra spans through Gemini and also the first part of Cancer. So it does have some nurturing and healing qualities. So it's good for people whose work or career is associated with these types of features. This nakshatra, being ruled by Jupiter, can also be about having lots of opportunities, but struggling to settle on one path, because Gemini is not really a stable nakshatra, as I mentioned before. It has a wavering quality and where things are liable to change. So that is why this nakshatra is associated with a cycle. Both Adra and Punarvasu are transformational nakshatras. Both can give positive results, but both can also give malefic results. So let's see how Punarvasu will affect all zodiac signs. And as always, I recommend looking at transits from the moon first and foremost. For Aries natives, Jupiter will transit into Punarvasu nakshatra in your third house, and the lord of Punarvasu is Jupiter itself. Jupiter in the third house is not a bad transit, so it can show that you have many things going on in your mind, many things to think about, so you can be mentally and physically busy. So in Punarvasu, with Jupiter in the third house, there can be lots of ideas in your mind. So if you have a side hustle or some sort of business, you can think about numerous avenues to expand and grow. If you want to start something on your own, when Jupiter is in the third house, it is very supportive to start a knowledge-based business. So like, for example, if you have any kind of specialist IT knowledge, this could be a time where you can be an independent consultant, or you might provide some kind of advising or teaching. So becoming a tutor is also a very good time. It is supportive for starting anything new, but the biggest challenge with Punarvasu is following through with what you start till the end. And you have to be able to navigate through any potential hurdles. So do not be afraid to start again if you do run into any hurdles, because you will learn a great deal along the way, which will help you in the future. Jupiter in Punarvasu can bring lots and lots of travel, repeated travel. So you may go on trips over the next year or so. So when Jupiter was in Adra, if any of your trips that you had planned were cancelled, then during Jupiter's transit in Punarvasu, the trip can happen again. So Jupiter will be in this nakshatra till June 2026. So there will be lots of opportunities for movement. So it doesn't have to be international travel. It can be domestic. It can be exploring the city or country you are in. The third house is the first learning house. So it's the early education house. So when Jupiter is in Punarvasu, there will be lots of opportunities to learn. So if you have a young child who is an Aries sign, this is a great period for them to develop and pick up as many skills as possible. So it's a good time to enroll a child into lots of different activities, especially if your child is an Aries moon sign, especially. Now, with yourself, you can also learn general things about life with Jupiter in Punarvasu. So this transit will give you lots of opportunities for self-growth and personal development. Saturn is in your 12th house, so it is causing some challenges. And this Jupiter is a good position with respect to Saturn to learn lessons about life. The third house represents people in your immediate environment. It represents your neighbors and younger sibling. So this transit can improve relations with these people in your life if it was disturbed during the transit of Adra Nakshatra. Whichever house Jupiter transits in, you can learn things from the people that are represented by that house. So you might have a younger sibling or people that are close to you who may be able to give you some sort of inspiration or advice. Jupiter is ruling your 9th house, which represents higher learning. So Punarvasu is good for students, but this energy does have a theme whereby people may have to repeat things. So if you are a student, for example, and doing some kind of professional exams, then Jupiter in Punarvasu can make you resit an exam or repeat a unit or course if you are at college or university. So this is not necessarily a bad thing, because with this nakshatra, there is actually a benefit doing things a second time round, such as your understanding or learning of a topic might be much better when you do it the second or third time round. And if your understanding of a module or unit is much better, then it will help you as you do more advanced things. Jupiter is aspecting your 7th house of relationships. So when Jupiter is in Punarvasu, your relationship, if you are in one, can ebb and flow, which means it can be up and down. It might be lacking in one thing, but another part of the relationship might be really good. If you are single, you can definitely meet people here, but it may lack some stability. So you may find it tricky to get everything that you want, or your curiosity will get the better of you. So you may repeat and enjoy the process of meeting lots of different people. Jupiter is aspecting your 7th house of income. So income, it depends on your job. So if your job is stable, or if you are involved with different types of jobs, you can get multiple sources of income. If your work is not stable, then just like relationships, your income can be up and down. But Rahu is in your 11th house, which is really good. So this is actually a really good opportunity to find other sources of income, because Jupiter in Punarvasu will give abundance of opportunities. So it's a really good time to find a second job or a weekend job, or a good time to start some kind of a side business. With Saturn in your 12th house, for some of you, this may be causing some health issues. So Jupiter in Punarvasu is good for healing, but you may have to repeat any treatment for any problems that you might be having. For Taurus natives, Jupiter will transit in Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, and this will be in your 2nd house. And this transit will run for about 10 months, so quite a long time Jupiter will be in this nakshatra. And Punarvasu itself is ruled by Jupiter, so it is transiting its own nakshatra here. And one of the things that this nakshatra represents is restoration. So in terms of finances, if you have found it difficult to save money recently, or you suffered some kind of loss, or perhaps you weren't working and your savings took a hit, this is a time you can get a job and your financial position will start to recover. So any savings that you had to use to get by, this is a time where you can repair your financial position and experience some growth. You may have made an expensive purchase the last couple of months, or when Jupiter was in Adra. So now you can restore that liquid cash that you may have spent. So I mentioned in other videos how Jupiter, Saturn and Rahu are all in good houses for Taurus native people. So if you find yourself struggling financially or professionally, just be patient and things will improve. If you run a business, this is also a time whereby if you haven't been paid for something, you can expect a payment to come through. Jupiter is the planet of increasing your knowledge. And in the second house, you can learn more about building wealth. You can learn about investing. You can learn about properties and wealth creation. So you are growing your knowledge here. And Punarvasu, it represents freedom from restrictions and limitations. So here you can find opportunities to increase your wealth. Therefore, if you are looking for a property to buy, or you are looking for somewhere to invest money, opportunities will present themselves. But one thing to know about Punarvasu is that it's associated with a cycle of growth and decline. So if or whatever you decide to invest in, any money, you have to be mindful that things can be up and down. If you're someone who is very knowledgeable about the stock market, where you know the right times to buy and sell, then you'll be able to make significant gains. However, if you are a novice or new to investing, you'll definitely learn a lot, but this could come through losses or making a mistake. So just be mindful of that if you decide that you want to grow your money. The second house represents your family. So Jupiter in Punarvasu is good for repairing broken family relationships or seeing family that you may not have seen for a long time. Ketu is in your fourth house and Saturn is retrograde. So opportunities to restore the connection with people from the past, including family, while Jupiter is in Punarvasu, can occur. Jupiter in Punarvasu also has a nurturing quality. And with Ketu in your fourth house, this is a time where it can show that you have to provide care or support to a family member or your mother. Jupiter is ruling your 8th house. So when it transits Punarvasu, this can bring some ill health to your facial area whereby you might need treatment. So for example, you might have to visit a dentist or an optometrist to get some care. The second house is actually the foundation of your life. It's to do with your overall sense of security, and it represents the control or safety barrier in your life. So if when Jupiter was in Adra, it was making you feel a little bit restless and vulnerable, this transit in Punarvasu will make you feel more protected. When the 8th Lord is in the second house, other people's resources will come to support you. Jupiter is ruling your 11th house. So the 11th house Lord is in the second house, which is good for saving money that you earn. When the 11th Lord is in Punarvasu, your income can return. So if you suffered any loss in your work or earnings, this is a time you can start earning again. This house also represents your desires. So with Punarvasu, you can actually find opportunities for the fulfillment of whatever you desire. So for example, if you have a desire to have a child, this nakshatra is very supportive of that. So you could be blessed with a baby if that is something that you want. Jupiter's energy is influencing all the career houses. So this is a time you can change your job over the coming period if that is something that you want to do. But you may have to go through multiple steps. So you may have to do like a first and second interview. Punarvasu is good for your career, so you will find plenty of opportunities. And as I mentioned, if you don't have a job, Saturn retrograde and now Jupiter is in a better condition to bring you professional luck. For Gemini natives, Jupiter will transit into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, and this will be in your first house. So Gemini people, talk to me. How is this Jupiter transit going for you so far? Especially if you are a Gemini moon sign, let me know in the comment section how it's going. So whenever Jupiter is aspecting or transiting the first house, it's an opportunity to expand and grow your personality. In Punarvasu, there will be lots of situations that allow for growth and progress. Firstly, there could be new job prospects, learning experiences, and even challenging situations that will push you to develop new skills and perspectives. So if you embrace these situations, you'll feel a sense of fulfillment. When Jupiter transits a house, it means that you need to learn something from that house. So with this first house transit, you need to learn how to be independent. You need to learn how to have a strong sense of self. This transit in Punarvasu will give you a situation where you need to be independent, where you need to rely on yourself. So for example, you could be like in a foreign country on your own, where you need to rely on yourself because there is no one else there. If you're someone who is already quite independent, then you won't feel much apprehension, and therefore this transit can be really, really good. Whereas if you are someone who is more dependent, and Geminis are people who prefer to be around others, generally speaking. So the biggest challenge here is being okay on your own. The first house, it represents confidence as well. So with Jupiter in Punarvasu, you'll be put in a situation where you can develop some confidence if this is lacking. So you'll definitely be outside of your comfort zone at times. Punarvasu will put you out in a situation outside of your comfort zone where you can make some sort of progress yourself. But remember, with Jupiter, there will always be something or someone of support. Punarvasu being in Gemini has a very adaptable nature. So when Jupiter is here, you have to be adaptable and flexible. Embrace new opportunities. You have to be able to respond to new circumstances. So that is basically what Jupiter in Punarvasu is trying to teach you. So this could be in your workplace where things could be changing with Saturn in your 10th house. So you need to learn how to adjust to that. If you are like a rigid person, then you are kind of limiting your growth and prospects. Now, when Jupiter is in Punarvasu, this will help you recover from any health-related issues you may be suffering from. So you'll be able to repair your body physically, mentally, and emotionally over the next 10 months and feel rejuvenated. Now, Punarvasu can also cause some health issues, so it's not like a person won't get sick, but with Punarvasu, there will always tend to be a cure. And that's what Punarvasu means. It means to shine again, to return to the light and renewal. Punarvasu is a very nurturing and compassionate nakshatra, and from the first house, it will aspect your 5th house, which is beneficial for your relationship with your children, if you have any. It is also supportive for having children, and if you're struggling to have children, depending on your natal chart, as long as they are not denied, you can have the necessary treatment to have a child. This nakshatra is as beneficial as it can get to have a child. And this is also a time where you can see your children if they have been away from you, because Punarvasu is represented by a cycle of departure and return. So you could go through a phase where you are away from your children and at the start of this transit, but then they will return to you. So remember, this transit is for 10 months, so a lot can happen in this period. Jupiter in Punarvasu in the first house is also aspecting your 9th house, so this can show good chances of traveling to places which you have already been to, places which were your home, where you used to live, for example. So traveling back to India if you are from India. This nakshatra can also be about returning to where you were. Jupiter is ruling your 7th house, so when it is in Punarvasu for this 10-month transit, this is a time your relationship can go through a cycle. So when two people are in a committed relationship, there can be recurring patterns where you feel connected, and there might be moments where you are disconnected, but then you are repairing your relationship. You are navigating through any challenges and strengthening your bond. So basically, for relationships, if there have been any issues, you'll be able to resolve them in this period. And this energy, it will help fix or heal any relationship issues. If you're single and you are going through the process of meeting people, so that can continue. Punarvasu is great for meeting people, but it is not always the most committed energy. So not in a negative way, but because it is ruled by Jupiter and Punarvasu is in Gemini, it is always looking for new things, mental stimulation. So it does get bored of something and it can move on to something else. For Cancer natives, Jupiter will transit into Punarvasu nakshatra, which will be in your 12th house from the 13th of August. So this nakshatra, even though it is ruled by Jupiter, it can also be quite unstable because it is in the sign of Gemini. And Gemini is a very changeable sign. It's a very changeable energy. So most of the Punarvasu nakshatra is in Gemini and a little bit in Cancer. So the energy can be a little bit inconsistent in Gemini, but it does have a better healing component than Ardra. So therefore, this transit will help those who require physical, mental, and emotional healing. This is a good time for all types of healing, but Gemini is more to do with communication. So those who feel the need to go through therapy or counseling can get very beneficial results here. Punarvasu is represented by a cycle. So this transit, however, can make a person go through things like surgery twice. So whatever type of healing you get, there is a good chance that you will have to repeat the treatment. But you will get a positive result at the end. Jupiter will be in Punarvasu for 10 months. So it will go retrograde and direct and spend a little bit of time in the sign of Cancer as well. This transit is very good for traveling. So traveling to places you may have already been to. And Punarvasu is about repeating and going to places which you have already been to or places you were in during the past. So during the next 10 months or so, you can find yourself in a familiar location. Maybe a place where you lived before. So since this transit is happening in the 12th house, the travel you do can be on your own, traveling solo. And the 12th house is also about things that you need to let go of. So this can show traveling to close off something, to get closure from something. The 12th house, being a moksha house, this transit in Punarvasu can show exploring or learning about your inner self. So this is a time to discover who you truly are, your personal values and beliefs, what truly resonates with your aspirations. So we all know that the 12th house is the house of loss. So here you are letting go of any societal expectations. letting go of any external pressures, letting go of any family pressures. So depending on the community you are from, there is always that type of pressure. So Punarvasu is about letting go of what no longer resonates, and you'll come across opportunities to find your authentic self. Jupiter in Punarvasu is very compassionate and nurturing, and in the 12th house it is very good for those who work in a healthcare environment, those who work as a nurse or social workers providing service and care to the community. Jupiter in this nakshatra is also very good for creative workers such as fiction writers, painters, artists. This is all quite good. And Saturn is in Pisces as well, so there is application and practicality of your creative ideas and thoughts. While Jupiter is in the 12th house, your expenses can be high, especially on travel. So it doesn't matter which nakshatra it is in. So when it is in Adra, the spending can be more luxurious, so it can be on luxuries. And when it is in Punarvasu, the spending can be on education and healthcare. This can also be a time where if you buy something, you may have to buy the item or service again. So for example, if you're planning a holiday and you book a hotel, but then you want to cancel the hotel because the travel dates have changed, but the hotel policies mean that you can't cancel. So you have to spend that money again on another hotel. So it's important to read the terms and conditions in whatever you are spending on while Jupiter is in Punarvasu. Jupiter is ruling the 9th house. So for those who are studying, this could be a time where you may have to repeat an exam. So if you're doing like a professional qualification, you may have to repeat a unit or a course, which can be incurring a cost. And the 9th house, it represents your father as well. So your father's health may not be good, and he may have to go through treatment multiple times, especially with Saturn also transiting your 9th house and Ketu in your 2nd house. Jupiter is ruling your 6th house. So for those who are not in a medical or creative job, this could be a time where you need to apply for jobs again. So your job could be ending and you have to go through the process of finding and applying for work. So there's actually a strong indication of job change while Jupiter is transiting your 12th house. The 12th house is about surrendering and letting go. So you could have an experience where you let go of someone or something only to find yourself needing to let go again later on. So it could be like a relationship that ends and you briefly rekindle, but then you break up again. For Leo natives, Jupiter will transit into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August. And it will spend about 10 months here, so it will be here for quite a long time, where it will be direct initially and then retrograde and then direct again. So the 11th house is the house of friendship. So while Jupiter is in Punarvasu, this is a very good time for networking and rebuilding any friendships or connections that may have been broken. So if you've had any falling out with anyone, this is a time you can start talking and mending any connection. This would also include personal or any other type of relationship that you may have been in, as Jupiter is aspecting your 7th house. So this is a time to smooth out any contractual issues that you may have been facing also. For those that are working in healthcare, marketing, travel, teaching, advising, this Jupiter transit will boost your income, so you can find yourself with the potential to earn more money. For those who don't have a job, when Jupiter was in Adra, it may have been making you feel restless, or Jupiter in Adra may have disturbed your income. But now in Punarvasu, the recovery of your income can begin. So you'll be able to find employment, But you may have to repeat the process, such as repeating like the application process or doing a second interview, because this nakshatra is about repeating things. The 11th house is one of the houses of money. So if you have been in any situation where you were cheated out of money by anyone, or you are having any financial problem, then when Jupiter is in Punarvasu, you can find solutions to any challenging situations. And it's not just about money. Whichever house Jupiter is influencing, here it is aspecting your 3rd, 5th and 7th houses. So there can be a return of optimism to these houses while Jupiter is transiting its own nakshatra of Punarvasu. The 11th house also represents your older sibling. So your interaction, your communication, your relationship with them can greatly improve during this transit. And they can also help you to achieve any desires or hopes you have. So for example, they might lend you money or give you some sort of advice which can help you in your life journey, or at least until Jupiter is in this house. So whichever house Jupiter transits, the people associated with that house can benefit you. And in this case, it is your older sibling and your network circle. So networking is very, very useful during this transit. So be open to meeting new people, talking to new people, especially those who are older than you and those who have more experience in their respective fields. Jupiter is a guru and Punarvasu is the nakshatra of Jupiter. So there is potential for you to receive some really, really good guidance and support over the next 10 months. Jupiter is ruling your 8th house. So this planet also rules transformations. So going back to where I mentioned about networking. So this can be a period where someone can come into your life for a period, for a specific reason, and then leave your life. So there can be like a karmic connection for a specific purpose to help you in some way. So do look out for that. And this transit is also about recovering any inheritance which is due to you, or any solution that is required. Jupiter is ruling your 5th house, and Punarvasu is a very nurturing type of energy which is very positive for children and childbirth in comparison to Adra Nakshatra. So there are strong chances to have children, and if you already have children, your relationship with them can improve. If you're having challenges with parenting, this is a time you can also develop your parenting skills, and you can get any support that you may need to help raise your children. If you have adult children or you have been separated or divorced, this is a time you'll be able to see your children or even get like a favorable outcome with custody. Jupiter will aspect your 3rd and 7th house while sitting in the 11th house. So all 3 of these houses, including the 11th house, I should add, are Karma Trikona houses, which represent your desires and aspirations. So with Jupiter influencing these houses in Punarvasu, they will boost your business, your hobbies, and your relationships, and a really good time for networking, as I mentioned before. So while most of these results are positive for this transit of Jupiter, you need to remember that K2 is in your 1st house. So K2 is setting the tone for the rest of the year and for next year. So in order to develop and grow your life and get the blessings of Jupiter, you have to change a little bit. You have to have a more healthy ego and focus on other people in your life, because that's where the growth will come from. For Virgo natives, Jupiter will transit into Punarvasu on the 13th of August, which will be in your 10th house. So this transit is very beneficial to reinvent your professional path and seek opportunities to expand your career. So if during Jupiter's transit in Adra you were feeling somewhat restless in terms of your job, or you had to experience some sudden change in your work, such as a change of responsibilities, or you're being asked to work in a different team or area, Punarvasu can take you back to where you were. So what can happen here is this can bring you some opportunities to change your job if that is something that you want to happen. Punarvasu is an energy which can make you go back to where you were. So if you change jobs during Adra nakshatra and you are not happy there, there is a chance that you can go back to your previous job or going back to your previous team. When Jupiter transits a house, it is actually about learning things related to that house. So in the 10th house, it's an opportunity to learn more about your career. So this transit in Punarvasu is an opportunity to upskill yourself, do a course, and learn something which can be useful for your professional path. So if you are a young person and thinking about what career path to take, this is a time to do research. This is a time to connect with professionals, set up a LinkedIn account, and attend networking events. So this will really help you. This transit can show returning back to your career or restarting your career. So this can show coming back to your job after an extended period of leave or maternity leave and resuming your career. This transit is very good for those working in agriculture, healthcare, marketing, and communication, writing and teaching as well. So this nakshatra is good for those areas, and you can experience growth, promotion, and the required support, as this nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is ruling your 4th house and is aspecting this house as well. So if your domestic life has not been good, this transit in Punarvasu can help you find a new place to live. It can improve your living and domestic condition. So Saturn has been aspecting your 4th house as well. So it shows that if you are in a relationship, it can show a difficult relationship at home. So Jupiter in Punarvasu can show movement away. So you or your partner may move out, or this can show your partner could be away from you, working in another city where you might only be able to see each other every few weeks. So therefore you are navigating through a cycle of departure and return. Jupiter is also ruling your 7th house, so it's the same type of result as I mentioned before. If you are single, this is a time you can meet someone very career orientated, and this person can also help you in your career. If you are due to get married, because Saturn is in your 7th house, this can show getting married and then separating. So Punarvasu can bring growth, but it is also a transformational energy, which can also cause departure or decline, because it is like a cycle. So it will be here for 10 months, which is quite a long time, quite a long duration where, breakups can happen. So my advice is to really be sure about the person before tying any knot or making any commitment. From the 10th house, Jupiter will aspect the 2nd house. So if you do happen to change your job, there is a good chance your salary can increase, which is standard when someone changes a job. They do so with the view of an upliftment in earnings. So that can happen. Jupiter's aspect on the 6th house and on Rahu will make you take more responsibility with your health. So Punarvasu is a very healing nakshatra, especially the part which is in Cancer. So this energy will help manage any health disorders or vulnerabilities. As far as your daily routine is concerned, or your day-to-day life, you can find yourself having to do the same things over and over again. So there is a recurring theme with this nakshatra where things need to be done multiple times in order to be complete. So this can be work-related things where there is repetition in the tasks that you are doing. It could be life admin things. It could be your health where you need to have recurring treatment. For Libra natives, Jupiter will transit in Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, which will be in your 9th house. So this house, it represents the future. It's about how you want to expand your life, which experiences you want, and it represents a growth mindset. So Punarvasu, it means return to the light. And if you think about light, light enables us to see, and it gives us a sense of sight. So we know where we are going if the path is clear. So with this ninth house transit, what it means is that it will give you the clarity on the direction of your life. If when Jupiter was in Ardra, you were confused about how to expand your life, grow your life and the future, in Punarvasu you will see the path that you need to go on. So you'll be able to now create the opportunities on that path, which means that this transit is much better than Ardra for new beginnings and gaining clarity. So I hope that makes sense. The 9th house, first of all, is all about our beliefs and philosophies, which we all have. So we all have a personal framework of how we want to live our life, which includes beliefs, values and attitudes. So with Punarvasu, you can find yourself refining or expanding some of the old beliefs or traditional beliefs and using these as a framework to expand your life. So if one of your beliefs is that if I fail, I don't want to try again. So what Punarvasu can help you do is that it can make you think about what you learned from that failed opportunity, what the opportunity taught you, and then try again. So for example, the 9th house, if you fail or you don't do well in a course or an exam, so Punarvasu can make you repeat the unit or the exam so that you can do better the second time round. This nakshatra is about repeating things if you don't get it the first time. So another example is if you want to go abroad but your visa is not approved, so this is a time where you can apply for another visa or apply for a visa for another country. With Jupiter in Punarvasu in the 9th house, you have to be flexible and adaptable. These are the qualities that you need to show if you want to expand your life. If you are someone who is very rigid or stuck in your old patterns, then you can't make the most of this transit. So you need to be curious. You need to maintain curiosity and be open. Then you will see good results. Now, in terms of work, first of all, Jupiter here can cause changes in your bosses. So it can be like a cycle where you get a new manager, they leave, or something happens or something changes and you end up getting another boss. So it can be a pattern of changes to your reporting line, which you have to try and manage and be flexible about, because you could, well, learn something different from each of the bosses. So this is something which you might experience. But Jupiter is a naturally benefic planet and is good in the 9th house, so you will get the support required in your work. The 9th house represents your father. So this is a time you can reconnect with him through doing things together, spending more time together, and building a stronger bond. This is the house of travel. The 9th house is the house of travel. So with Punarvasu, you can find yourself returning to a place that you were in during the past. So this nakshatra can bring repeated travels. It can bring lots of travel, and you can go on trips or holidays that were previously cancelled. So perhaps during Jupiter's transit in Ardra, if you had any trips that were cancelled, they can go ahead now with Jupiter in Punarvasu. For those that are students, Jupiter in Punarvasu can show resuming your studies if there has been an interruption of some sort. And this nakshatra can also make you resit exams. So while Jupiter is good in the ninth house, this nakshatra can force you to do things twice. It could be that you need to get a certain grade or a mark, so you can have that opportunity to perform better the second time round. Jupiter is ruling and aspecting your third house, and this is one of the houses which we look at when analyzing business. Jupiter's aspect here is positive, and Punarvasu basically means to be bright again, to be auspicious again from adversity. So if you have faced any difficulty, things will improve gradually over this 10-month transit. Jupiter will be aspecting your first house. So in Punarvasu, there will be a strong connection to the themes of rebirth and renewal. So you can feel a sense of profound transformation. It could be a shift in perspective or a renewed sense of purpose and optimism, and therefore this is a great time for something new to happen in your life or to start something new. But as I mentioned, try not to be disheartened if things don't go well at the first attempt. Be willing to give things a second chance with this because of Punarvasu's energy. So it's important to be flexible and open. You have to be a little bit like Gemini to get the growth. For Scorpio natives, Jupiter will transit into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, which will be in your 8th house. So when Jupiter transits the 8th house, it can change the direction of your life, or your beliefs and values can radically change. So it's a very significant transformational transit, and Punarvasu is also quite a transformational nakshatra. So these energies complement each other, as they are both to do with endings of some sort and a rebirth. So when Jupiter transits a house, it's a time where you need to learn something related to that house. So in the 8th house, you may need to learn how to manage joint finances. You may need to learn about taxes, learn about inheritance, and learn about how to embrace sudden unexpected change. This is a house where you are vulnerable basically, and where you need to learn how to share. And Punarvasu is ruled by Jupiter itself, so it will give some growth in these areas depending on what is happening in your life. So for Scorpio people, first of all, if you are confused about which direction to go in your life, confused about your purpose, then this transit of Jupiter in Punarvasu will show you the path. So Punarvasu, it means return of the light, which means that you'll start to gain some clarity and do the work towards creating opportunities in the direction you want to go. So with Punarvasu, there can be setbacks, and because Saturn is in your 5th house, so there is some patience required, but you will be doing the work for the direction you are going. So basically doing the work for when Jupiter transits into your 9th house properly next year. Now Punarvasu has a recurring theme where sometimes you have to do the same things multiple times. So Jupiter's transit here, if you are, for example, due to have surgery a second time. So if you've had surgery before on a particular body part, this period can show having to have it again. Or if not surgery, then some sort of treatment for the second time. Punarvasu can also cause some diseases, just like any of the nakshatras. So Punarvasu here can cause some respiratory illnesses, including coughs and colds, and also cause some anxiety and stress because you might be doing the same things over and over again. But with Punarvasu, it is a very healing nakshatra, so you will be able to find a cure for any problems that arise. For students, this can show repeating some kind of process. So you could be redoing a course, you could be changing your course, or simply having to relearn things from the past. So This transit can be like a retrograde energy. And for example, you may have to redo your driving test. So that's another example. But if you do end up having to repeat something, there's a good chance that you'll do better the second time round, as long as you put in the effort into what you need to learn. The 8th house represents other people's money. So here you will be able to acquire the money or loan required to purchase a property or asset of some sort, if that is something that you want to do. If you have been refused a loan, in Punarvasu, a person will successfully be able to obtain the money from a third party or a loan from the bank, or your partner can be the source of finance and you'll be able to find a place. If you're someone who is settled in a place of residence, then Jupiter in Punarvasu can show there will be things in your house which may continuously break down and will need fixing. So the point of Punarvasu is to improve your living condition, but with the 8th house, you have to rely on other people because you may not be able to fix things yourself. When Rahu is in the 4th house, this can show you are living in someone else's home or someone else's country. So you can be spending time in a country where you are not a citizen, in other words. And with Punarvasu being a cycle, this can also show quite a nomadic lifestyle where you are moving from one place to another. So you don't really have a fixed abode. In terms of work, Saturn is not in a good position for service-related employment. So you'll likely change jobs with Saturn and Ketu's position. Jupiter in Punarvasu, the meaning of this nakshatra is to be bright again. So it has benefic qualities and it is also aspecting your 2nd house. So this transit will enhance your job prospects to find work if you are not working. Jupiter is ruling your 5th house, which represents children, and Saturn is in your 5th house. So definitely there are lessons for Scorpio people in relation to 5th house matters. So in regards to children, there can be some uncomfortable and difficult lessons here. If you have children, the relationship can be very up and down. So with Punarvasu, you need to be less intense with your children and more flexible and free-flowing. So this is not just for your children, this is in all areas of your life for the next 10 months. Because when Gemini sits in the 8th house, all the Gemini-related significations are in the basement. So the 8th house is basically the basement, which are things that you don't really want to deal with. So Jupiter here is bringing them to your everyday life, and this can be uncomfortable. So this is a 10-month period where communication is important, being flexible and going with the flow. So I hope that makes sense. For Sagittarius natives, Jupiter is the lord of your chart and it will transit into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, which will be in your 7th house. So this transit in this nakshatra will last until the 18th of June 2026. So it's quite a long time. So it's about 10 months. So Punarvasu, it means return of the light. So for Sagittarius people, you will now start to gain some clarity about your life and specifically about relationships, because this transit is happening in your 7th house. So when Jupiter transits a house, it means that you need to learn something related to the house. So Jupiter is transiting in the 7th house, so there are lessons to do with relationships and other people. So this transit is not just about meeting someone wonderful, falling in love and living happily ever after. So it doesn't quite work like that. So you have to understand the deeper meaning. Now, the results really depend on the stage of life you are in. So for example, if you are young, in your early 20s or early to mid 20s, Jupiter in Punarvasu can give you a lot of opportunities to meet people. So the transit can show lots of short-term casual relationships, which might suit you if that is something you are looking for. Punarvasu is associated with a cycle where you meet someone, you have a short connection for a while, and then you break up, and then they depart. So either way, whether you are young or you're not young, this transit can show meeting a lot of people, but the connection only lasting a short amount of time. Now, for some of you who are maybe in your 30s and 40s and you want to settle down, or you've had failed relationships in the past, Jupiter in Punarvasu can make you repeat lessons until you recognize the recurrent patterns and make conscious changes to improve the outcome. So in other words, there are changes that you need to make if you don't want the same things to keep happening to you. So these repeated patterns are opportunities to evolve and learn. But if you do not change, then you cannot expect growth in your life, if that makes sense. So if you are single and you are meeting people but struggling to find that person to form a relationship with, you have to think about what you need to change so that the outcome is different. So it's not always about you. Sometimes it can be about the people you're trying to meet. Are you meeting the right people? So Punarvasu, it means to be bright again. So if you want your 7th house to shine, this is a time to reflect and think about what you really need to do differently. This nakshatra also represents a cycle. So where you meet someone, you break up with them, but then you come back to your senses and you get back together. So this can show someone from the past coming back into your life. And this is actually a good time to get back with your ex or resume any relationship that has been temporarily broken. Because this nakshatra can be about having that extra wisdom so that you are getting back together, but with a stronger foundation of respect and communication. And you are getting back together by acknowledging the past problems and not repeating the same mistakes. If you have been married for a long time or you are in a very committed relationship, there could be minor bumps which you need to resolve. There could be some changes in the dynamic of a relationship. But remember, this is Jupiter, not Saturn, so it is much easier to resolve any issues. If you are waiting for a divorce, this can be a time or a period where you can get the freedom and the favorable outcome that you desire. So that's as far as relationships are concerned. The 7th house also represents contracts. Renewing contracts can happen here. And Saturn is retrograde in your 4th house, so property related contracts can be on your mind. So this is a time you may look for a new place to live or renew your current lease. If you are having any renovation work done in your property, this is a time where work can resume if there has been a break. And this is a time to fix anything related to your home. So this is actually a great time over the next 10 months or so to do anything that needs fixing in your house. In terms of health, Punarvasu is associated with recovery and healing. So if you are having any health related problems, this is a time where you need to make some lifestyle changes or adjustments. Punarvasu nakshatra is a healing nakshatra, so this is a good time to exercise regularly, improve your diet, and have any health related checkups that you need to have. Punarvasu can give recurring health problems until you change something. So that is the whole point of this nakshatra. You need to take ownership, you need to change your lifestyle, then your health can improve. For Capricorn natives, Jupiter is transiting in your 6th house and will move into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August. So the 6th house transit of Jupiter is fairly good in my opinion. So although Capricorn people will find themselves juggling a lot of different things in their life this year and into next year, so You are busy, or you will be busy over the next 10 months, especially if you are a Capricorn moon person. Whenever Jupiter transits the house, it means that you have to learn something related to that house. So with the 6th house, you need to learn how to improve your day-to-day life, which obviously includes your work, your lifestyle, activities that you do, and so on. So the 6th house is to do with service-related work, first of all, and Punarvasu is associated with a cycle of growth and decline before growing again. So it is a beneficial nakshatra, but it lacks some long-term stability because it is in the sign of Gemini, which has a changeable nature. So what can happen here is if you are looking for a new job, you can definitely find that opportunity, but it can be like a fixed term role where you might get the opportunity to act in a higher position, or you may find a contract opportunity for 8 months. Or if you get a permanent promotion or a new permanent job, there can be a lot of moving around. So traveling to different sites, and it could be like a cycle where you spend, X amount of days at site A, then X amount of days in site B, and so on. So it can have this type of feature. But definitely you will find a fixed term opportunity with Punarvasu. So any new position will come with more responsibilities and more pay because your Jupiter is aspecting your 10th and 2nd houses. So it will lift your status. Punarvasu, it means return of the light. So if you have been confused in any way regarding your job, Punarvasu will bring the light and you'll be able to gain clarity in work matters during this period. Jupiter in Punarvasu can also mean resuming a job. So if you've had extended leave, or you've been on maternity leave or paternity leave, and you're coming back after 1 year, so this transit can show that. This transit is also very good for those who are in Jupiterian types of jobs, such as advisors, professors, teachers, and healthcare professionals, because this nakshatra has a nurturing element to it where you are providing support and guidance to others. So if you're like a sports coach or a trainer, this transit is also very good. And Jupiter in Punarvasu can also show returning to your previous job or company. So if you have changed jobs, if you changed your job when Jupiter was in Adra, but you feel like you've made that was the wrong decision, this energy is supportive for returning back. When Jupiter is transiting the 6th house in Punarvasu, it can show a time where you can learn a variety of things. So some of this could well be in your day-to-day job where you can pick up good skills. This is also a time where you can expand your knowledge of the things that you do in your day-to-day life. So your routine that you have, you can improve it, you can refine it. So for example, if you are into health and fitness, you can really benefit here from a personal trainer to show you how to exercise more effectively. If you play tennis, then this is a time you can get a coach to improve your skills. So this nakshatra is a little bit about repetition, but it is also about doing things a better way the 2nd or 3rd time round. This is a really good time to expand your knowledge of what you are consuming. So if you are on a particular diet, you can target, the foods that you need to eat more. And Jupiter is also ruling your 3rd house of hobbies. So this transit will give you an opportunity to improve or enhance your skills of the hobbies that you are doing. So I mentioned, fitness or tennis. This is a very good time to better yourself in everything you do, basically. Although the 6th house is considered a malefic house sometimes, Jupiter's transit here is really not too bad for many things. A person can become more streetwise. They can learn, good life skills with Jupiter's transit in Punarvasu in the 6th house. But the problem with Punarvasu is that depending on the person, it is not the most stable nakshatra. So a person can be doing lots of things and have a very changeable routine. So there can be a lack of consistency. So therefore, for some people, this can cause feelings of stress and feelings of disorientation. The 6th house is the house of debt. So Jupiter can increase your financial debt, but in a good way. So you may want to purchase something big. So therefore, you might get a second loan. This transit can also help you try and manage any existing debt that you have, finding a better way to manage your finances. Jupiter is ruling your 12th house, so this is an excellent time to make your dreams become a reality. So whatever you wish to do in your life in terms of work, activities, business, this is a really, really good time. The 12th house is the house of dreams, and so when it is in the 6th house, which is the house of reality, it is the house of the real world, which is the practical world. So a person can make their dreams a reality, and Saturn is also in a great position for this. Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, which is a dreamy sign. So Saturn will bring a dose of practical application in whatever you desire. Jupiter is in a very healing nakshatra here. So Punarvasu is associated with healing and rejuvenation, especially in areas related to digestion and respiratory health. So some of you can expect improvements or recovery from those types of issues. For Aquarius natives, Jupiter is transiting in your 5th house and will move into Punarvasu nakshatra on the 13th of August, and it will stay there until June 2026. So it will stay there for quite a long time. Now, Punarvasu is represented by a cycle of growth and decline, or departure and return, depending on what area of life we are looking at. So this is a beneficial nakshatra. It will bring some optimism and growth, but it lacks the long-term consistency at times because it is in the sign of Gemini, which has a changeable nature. So the 5th house is the house of pleasure. It represents dating and relationships. So Punarvasu will bring some optimism and growth in this area of your life. Now, due to the nature of this nakshatra, if you are single, this can show multiple casual relationships rather than a long-term committed one. As Ketu is in your 7th house, it's a little bit tricky to form something which is long-lasting. But with Jupiter in Punarvasu, you will get ample opportunity to meet people. Whenever Jupiter is transiting a house, you are also learning something related to the house it is transiting. And with Punarvasu being ruled by Jupiter itself, you are not only dating people, but you are actually learning about the dating process. You're learning about what your red flags are, what your green flags are. What do you need in a connection? So you are exploring all of these types of themes. Punarvasu and Jupiter are both very excellent for having children. So Punarvasu is also a very nurturing and compassionate nakshatra, which are important qualities when having a baby or raising a child. If you are in a middle of a divorce or separation, this transit can give you favorable results in relation to your children if you have any. So you may get, custody of your children. This transit can also show babysitting or working in childcare. So you might have a side job where you need to look after children while parents are away. If you have adult children, this is a time where you can both see each other. But just like a cycle, there can be times where you may not see each other. So if your children are grown up, so this is a time, you can definitely see them. If your children are grown up, then this is a time where they can also be a source of knowledge for you, and you can actually learn something from them. The fifth house is the house of learning and knowledge. So not just the learning you do as a student or at school, it's about all types of learning that a person goes through in their life. So Jupiter in Punarvasu will actually help you open up your eyes. It will help you become more aware and understand things a lot better, which will help you learn from mistakes and do things better a second time round. So this is really, really good. It will give you that clarity to make the better decisions, because Punarvasu actually means return of the light, and the light helps us see and gives us clarity. So this is a better time to make any major decisions in the short term. The fifth house represents a person's ego. So it's the house of recognition and external validation. And Jupiter in Punarvasu is good for boosting your self-esteem, confidence, and it will create a positive self-image. So if you experienced any loss of confidence or restlessness when Jupiter was in Adra, this transit will enhance your self-esteem and your confidence will shine again. This transit is also beneficial for those who are influencers, writers and journalists, and a very good time for combining artistic expression with communicative roles. Jupiter is ruling your 2nd and 11th houses, which are both money houses, and this transit in the 5th house shows that you can acquire money through education and investment returns. So this is actually a very good time to set up a knowledge-based business. So for example, being a tutor, being a consultant or advisor, this transit is very good for earning money through these types of jobs. So if you do have any skill which you can pass on to others, such as being like an English tutor or a maths tutor, science tutor, or teaching music, this is a time I recommend starting a side hustle. So look at your natal chart, and if, for example, your 3rd lord or 5th lord is in the 11th house, then it's a possibility for you to earn money through a teaching type of job. Jupiter is aspecting your 1st house, and therefore it is also aspecting Rahu. So when Rahu is in the 1st house, it means that your body may need to go through some sort of electronic machine, like an X-ray machine, or there can be some sort of medical device in your body, or your body going through a medical scan of some sort. So Punarvasu is an energy that will help diagnose the disease you're suffering from. It will show the prognosis, and you'll be able to start the treatment to rejuvenate you. When Rahu is in the 1st house, it is a period where you will want to fulfill some of your desires. And this aspect of Jupiter in Punarvasu will greatly support Rahu. It will create the opportunities to do the things that you have always wanted. But Saturn is in your 2nd house. So Saturn is applying some of the brakes here, because obviously the desires people have, it does cost money. And if you are not in the best financial position, then you cannot do some of the things. But if your financial position is good, you can do a lot of things that you have always wanted during this period. For Pisces natives, Jupiter is the lord of your chart and is transiting in your 4th house. And on the 13th of August, Jupiter will move into Punarvasu nakshatra, which is its own nakshatra. And the 4th house is also Jupiter's natural exaltation house. So it's a house where it feels very comfortable. So you can expect some good results over the course of this 10-month transit. So first of all, Punarvasu, it means return of the light, and light obviously helps us see better. So this transit will first of all bring some clarity in your life. So if you have been unsure about anything, if you are lacking some direction, Punarvasu will show you the path where you need to go, and importantly, how to go. So sometimes in life people are not sure how to proceed with something. So Punarvasu will give you that clarity. Punarvasu is represented by a repeated cycle where there is growth and expansion, but then there is also decline and contraction before the next cycle of growth starts again. So since this is happening in your fourth house, it will be a period where your mind or emotions can be very up and down. So you can have some really, really good days, but also some days where you may feel down or sad, and that is because Saturn is in your first house. So Saturn is setting the tone for the rest of this year and next year. So fluctuations can happen in your mind and emotions, and therefore it's a really good time actually to make some lifestyle adjustments, adding things to your lifestyle, new hobbies, doing new things such as, cooking or baking, because this is a time where you may find yourself spending a lot of time at home, especially if you are a Pisces moon person. So you can find home-based hobbies. And the whole point of Jupiter transiting this house and this nakshatra is to expand your mind and try and help you find comfort where you are and to make your home life more enjoyable. This nakshatra is a cycle of repetition. So over the next 10 months or so, you can find yourself having to repeat certain things in your life. So for example, if you're a student, you can find yourself resitting exams, redoing coursework. You can find yourself going over notes, past exam papers, and basically relearning things. So this transit can be a little bit like a retrograde transit, but it's a good opportunity to go through what you already know. There could be a repetition of anything in your life, so be mindful of, giving your best attempt and attention in anything you do. Otherwise, you will have to repeat things. But if you do have to repeat things, it's not the end of the world. It can cause some frustration, but doing things a second time round can also mean you are doing it with more knowledge, more wisdom, and with some experience. So, which can also give you a good result. Jupiter is ruling your first house, and therefore it represents your personality. And when it is transiting in the sign of Gemini or Punarvasu, this is a time where you need to be more flexible and adaptable to help you navigate through whatever challenges you may be facing. And if you're already a flexible person, then this transit is better for you. But if you're not, then you can feel a little bit of a struggle. This nakshatra also has a nurturing side to it. And if you are following transits from the moon, where Saturn is transiting over your natal moon in the first house, so this transit can be about having to look after someone in your family. And this especially can be a motherly figure who may be ill and you'll be looking after them. This can also show having to nurture yourself, caring for your own well-being, treating yourself with kindness and compassion. The fourth house is the house of memories, and Punarvasu nakshatra can make you reprocess these moments. So these can be happy memories where you think back and it puts a smile on your face. But memories can also be sad or traumatic, and sometimes reprocessing them can actually be healing because it can reduce the intensity every time. So what this essentially means is that you'll be recalling these moments from the past and relearning from them. So learning from the past to build a better future. The fourth house, it represents property and conveniences such as a car or a vehicle. So with Jupiter in Punarvasu, there's a strong indication that you will need to service your car, which may contribute to some of your expenses. And in relation to property, this can also be a time where any renovation work can be resumed if there has been a break, or there will be some improvement required and some improvement that you need to do in your home. Now, from the fourth house, Jupiter will aspect your 10th house of career and status. So with this aspect, if there has been any break in your job or where you haven't really been able to earn money, this is a period where your 10th house can shine a little bit more. So you can get a little bit more clarity around your career. And this transit can also show a person can have multiple jobs, or a job where there is a lot of travel required from, different sites. With Jupiter in Punarvasu and Saturn in your first house, this combination is really, really good for those working in healthcare, schools, and hospitality.